Good afternoon, dear members of the European Parliament, dear Mr. Lange, dear Professor Fuest, dear representatives of EconPol Europe, dear representatives of the European Commission and the other European institutions, Mrs. Asenius, dear representatives of national delegations and the regions, of institutes, associations, companies, the research sector, and the media, ladies and gentlemen. As a representative of the Free State of Bavaria, I'm delighted to welcome you here this afternoon in the representation of the Free State. Your choice of venue is perfect, in the shadow of the European Parliament, right in the heart of Europe in Brussels. For the European Union is in charge of Europe's trade sector. It should appear united and unanimous in that respect, and must not let itself be split by third parties, no matter how tempting some offers may be. And you could not have been more up to date in selecting your topic. International trade and protectionism is what we all are concerned about these days. We are looking at current events in global trade, not only, but also and in particular in my home state, Bavaria. The business and industry of Bavaria is closely linked to the global economy, like hardly any other regions. This applies both to the global players we have, you will all know Siemens, BMW, and so on, and to the SMEs we have. Our prosperity is based on global networking of our economy. Every 1 in 4 jobs in Bavaria depends on international business, and when it comes to industry, it is every 1 of 2 jobs that depends on international business. Yes, Bavaria is one of the winners of the globalization. And this is also benefiting our partners, because the international integration of economies does not work in just one direction, with either winners or losers, as US President Trump would like to convince us. On the contrary, international collaboration in a globalized value chains creates synergies, jobs worldwide, and new markets. A greater degree of internationalization therefore is and continues to be one of the challenges on the road to success and prosperity for Bavaria, for Germany, and the European Union as a whole. Even so, the successes achieved on an international scale by Bavarian enterprises cannot be taken for granted, but must be won over and over again through hard work. To this end, we need good, reliable, and rules-based framework conditions worldwide. The risks represented by the world economy have, however, been growing in the past few years. Let me just mention a few key points. China's state capitalism is increasingly hindering fair competition. In the trade war between the US and China, Europe is on the verge of becoming a case of collateral damage. With his America First slogan, Donald Trump relies on customs, duties, protectionism, and economic sanction. And as though that were not enough, we will be faced with Brexit in March next year. One could elaborate extensively on each and every one of these topics, but I want to finish too. The essential point is this: wherever we look, the rules-based global economic order is increasingly being called into question. As one of the most open and closely integrated macroeconomies in the world, This is a particularly hard blow for us in Germany and in Bavaria. The rules-based order in world trade is the mainstay of our economy. It is our strength. It would, of course, be best if we could secure the rules-based world economy order through the WTO, but that is, unfortunately, proving to be very, very difficult. It falls far short of what we need, and on top of that, would turn out to be a long-drawn undertaking. For even with all the current challenges facing us, one thing is clear. Today's problems are not going to be solved using yesterday's tools. Defending the multilateral order will succeed only if it is also adapted to the new realities that we are seeing at present. Therefore, what we need is modernization of the WTO. For that reason, we welcome and support the European Union's activities to this effect. For instance, when it comes to role of state-run companies or issues relating to digitalization and the platform-based economy. In that respect, the EU needs to cooperate closely with partners such as Japan and Canada, but also the USA and China, for we will never be able to build a stronger rules-based order without the USA or without China. This is a lengthy process. Quite some time will pass before we see results. But it is now that business needs a reliable framework, and not in a few years from now. And it is against the background that many governments are concluding bilateral free trade agreements. For example, early in February of 2016, the US and 11 other countries had agreed on a free trade zone, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, encompassing well over 40% of the global economic output. While it is true that US President Trump withdrew from TPP shortly after his elections, all the other parties have now decided to continue the free trade agreement under the name of CPTPP, the Comprehensive and Progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership. Concurrently, China is now seeking to establish a huge Asian free trade zone, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, which is to include over 3 billion people, more than 3 times the populations of the European Union and the USA together, and will cover some 40% of global trade. All this demonstrates that the world is not waiting for Europe. In other regions of the world, future perspectives for growth, employment, and prosperity will be driving even larger numbers of economic activities. Those parts of the world have started the race to catch up, and they are hungry for success. Tomorrow's global trade flows, however, must not be allowed to flow past Europe. Otherwise, Europe will be threatened with economic marginalization and loss of prosperity. To prevent this, the European Commission's current trade strategy is seeking, for economic, political, and for social reasons, to establish privileged trade partnerships between the European Union and major trading partners, while not reducing its effort to achieve a successful conclusion to the WTO Doha round and modernization of the WTO. With regard to these objectives, the Bavarian state government has invariably been supportive to the European Commissions. All these efforts have been successful too. Only recently, the EU has concluded with Japan the most comprehensive trade agreement in the world. And the agreement with Canada, which has been in force provisionally for more than 1 year now, or the negotiation conducted between Australia, New Zealand, and the Asian states. Mexico and Mercosur all confirm this trend. The EU is in demand worldwide as a trading partner. It is actively shaping the global system of trade and commerce. And moreover, the European Union is also shaping that global system in accordance with values that correspond to those of its citizens, and it is also mindful of their interests, because everyone in the European Union wants good and ambitious, but also well-balanced treaties with which on the one hand can contribute to safeguarding and expanding growth and prosperity in the EU, and also, and in particular, in the exporting state of Bavaria, and which, on the other hand, respect European standards and continue to leave legislations the scope to shape our future. I mean our right to regulate, including the precautionary principle that applies in the EU and which fully retain the right to keep public services public and let us be able to decide for ourselves how we want healthcare, education, and the supply of drinking water. In this balance that we have put into practice with the EU's progressive free trade agreements, examples of these being treaties with Canada and Japan. In addition to provisions relating to market liberalization and tariff dismantlement, these agreements all stipulate detailed safeguarding measures to safeguard our public services and maintain our high standards of protection in the European Union, in the interest of consumers and workforces and for the environment as well. Business promotion and observance of our values in the European Union are not mutually exclusive, but mutually dependent. For it is only their equilibrium that will foster political acceptance and international credibility. Therefore, we need to continue advocating free trade and the EU's well-balanced free trade agreements in public and to respond to emotions with facts. Moreover, I believe that because of the developments we are seeing at present, we are in a phase where the public mood has changed at this point. For today, it is no longer a question of whether a free trade agreement is good or bad, or who it may help to be detrimental to. Rather, it has become much more a matter of principle. On the one hand, there is the free world, which also want free, rules-based trade. And those who want this will also want to conclude free trade agreements. On the other hand, there are now lots of people out there who hold a different view of the world and try to enforce it on trade by means of protectionism. And this is not the way of the European Union. If Europe brings its weight to bear, this will create an opportunity not only to shape globalization in a civilized manner, but also to ensure the public acceptance that is necessary. And at the same time, with these free trade agreements, we in the European Union will send a clear signal against protectionism and in favor of a rules-based global system. This is important, and we in the European Union need to continue to work hard at this. In view of all of these challenges, I'm very glad to note that you are focusing on this topic at your conference today. My wish is that we all will enjoy interesting lectures and exciting discussions today and tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Dear Mrs. Wolf-Prexler, dear guests, colleagues, friends of EconPol, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to welcome you all to our second annual conference. The subject of this conference is trade policy and protectionism, so a very timely issue. But before I come to that, let me thank the Bavarian representation here for hosting this conference. This is a wonderful place to be, as you just said, close to the other European institutions, in particular the Parliament. Now, I'm very happy and enthusiastic, in fact, that we've been able to bring together so many highly reputed experts on trade here, experts from academia, from the European institutions, from industry, and other places, and I'm really very much looking forward to our discussions. Before we start, let me just say a few words about EconPol Europe, about the network. So EconPol Europe is a network founded by 9 research institutions, so institutions doing research in economics. And the purpose of the network is really to bring research results into the public policy debate and into the European debate. It is also the purpose of this network to build bridges between, on the one hand, the debates in the member states, which we know are very different, and to build bridges between these national debates and the European debate on the one hand, but also to build bridges between these national debates and to foster exchange between them. And one way of doing so, and we believe a very effective way, is having institutions from these different member states involved. And I'm very glad to see many colleagues from these different institutions being involved today. Let me also mention that, oh no, it's on here. Yeah, exactly. Okay, let me, if that works. Maybe I can say that, we don't need to see the slides. So this network was founded by 9 institutions from 7 member states, and I'm glad to see many of them are represented here today, but we have extended the network this year by another 5 institutions, including institutions from Spain, from the Czech Republic, and from a number of other countries, and I'm very glad to see that the network is expanding. So I think we should start now and get into the discussion. So I wish you all a very interesting conference. We have mostly panels today. We have the keynote today, and tomorrow we have parallel sessions. The second day tomorrow, to which I hope many of you will attend as well. The day tomorrow will be devoted to other subjects as well, like European Capital Market Union, China, convergence in Europe, and other issues. One thing we will do tomorrow is present research from research projects being carried out in the network, whereas today the focus is on panel discussions and the presentation of research really about international trade. Let me conclude here. I wish you all and all of us a very nice and stimulating conference, and I think we should start with the first panel, which will be headed by Sébastien. Thank you.